Well, hello everyone, and today we've got something really special, which is I get to talk to people who I could honestly say are some of my oldest BookTube friends, which is Austin and Richard from 2ToRamble. I don't think I was their first patron, but I was one of their first way back in the day, and then pulled a Thanos and said, "Fine, I'll do it myself instead." And now here we are. So, how are you guys doing today?
Very
Doing
good.
well. Less so that you remind me of the good old days and how you abandoned us, but still doing okay.
This is a shakedown, Rich. There's so many months where he didn't pay us $10, so we need to get every last penny out of this collab.
That's right.
Oh,
Before
yeah.
we begin, can we get you guys to like sing live for us the theme song?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Ba,
Da 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 da. I think that was better than the actual recorded one.
That was majestic. I swear. So when I first, because I think I've told you guys about how I first started watching your channel, like back when I was a patron. But I was back in the day when you guys were reviewing movies, and it was like 50-50 both. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, there are two things that are going to drop off once these guys get big. They're going to get rid of that dumb rating system, and they're going to get rid of that dumb theme song that they use. And both have stuck. I was wrong on both points.
Yeah, Rich.
Woo! Up, there we go.
Oh, no.
And I messed the camera up. Hello, camera. Come back.
Samwise, you thought those would go away?
Yeah. I probably would have bet not a lot of money, but I would have bet some money that those were going to go away. So
now the rating system
fair.
did change, but it actually we added a category, got more granular in some ways, but it did change. But the theme song has been literally the same since day one.
Which I am curious how many people click off at that intro song.
Oh yeah.
How much has that shackled our channel?
Imagine what we could do.
We're putting on the weighted bands of like the minute we cut free. It's just oh my god.
Well, the question is
popularity.
The people who click off right then, like, do you really want them watching your channel?
No.
No.
We want only the strong to watch us.
What is it about that rating system and like breaking things down that's made you guys like stick with it and try to refine it? Is it just like here's something that sets us apart, or like does that actually help you like assess and figure out why you like certain books more than others better?
I mean, if you want to get like big picture about it, it ultimately helps organize a conversation around the book for us. Instead of just talking about moments you liked, which ultimately a lot of book discussion can kind of break down into basically, oh, wasn't this a cool moment? And hey, I think this book said something about this. Basically, those are the two things. But we wanted a system that kind of broke down why. The whole thing started when we were watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, I believe, with our friends.
Rewatching.
We were watching it,
of course, yeah.
And we wanted to determine, like, hey, let's rank every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so we came up with this category system to, like, objectively find the best season of Avatar. And then it kind of spiraled from there, using it in other ways. But, yeah, I mean, nowadays, it's just, I think it's a good way to rate something and to be understood. Hey, why did you like this book? You look at my categories. That's why. It's a pretty snapshot, easy to understand. Oh, Richard thinks X about this book for X, Y, and Z reasons.
And we have the whole detailed Google Doc on what do we mean by a 5 versus 1 star for each category as well. So like when we say characters, like Rich and I, we particularly know, but we also try to make it very clear in the reviews of what is the 5, what is the 1, what are we judging this on? And each number is also defined by a term. We always will say, hey, I gave this a 3.5. That means it's good. Or I gave this a 2. That means it's flawed. Like it's backing up the word behind it, not just the number. Because a lot of the times you can get lost in the sauce of like, what is a 7 out of 10? To some people, that's good. to some people, you see 7 out of 10, they're like, oh, that's average. It's like, it's fine. Or what is a 5 out of what are any of these things? So that helps as well. But definitely what Rich said about the having a conversation that is focused, and we do ramble, it's in the name, but we try to contain the ramble in some way so it makes some sort of sense. And yeah, we've been doing it since I think the very first episode, really. Yeah, because it predated the we didn't make it, like Rich was saying, we didn't make it for the channel. We'd already used it a little bit just in our friend group, and then started the channel and already had a basis to go off of.
Sure. That makes sense. Do you guys, and this actually kind of perfectly segues into something else that I've been thinking about. So there's something, and I would say it's a debate, except it's not really a debate. I feel like this topic is pretty one-sided, at least in our circle of booktube a lot of times, which is like, is all art subjective? Is it all just up to like personal interpretation as to whether or not art can be good or bad? And it seems like, well, I guess I should ask, with you guys having like this highly systematized way of assessing the books that you read and the movies you watch, do you think that there is a certain amount of objectivity that you're bringing to your assessment, or is it all just like, no, it's how I feel, and like anybody else's assessment of it could be equally as accurate?
You want me? I can go first. Yeah, it's definitely, your feelings are certainly subjective toward a work and how it affects you. It's obviously subjective. I think the only really the objective things you can say about a work to discover is, hey, this one objectively has a higher word count. It objectively uses more commas. The prose is objectively more cut, and like, Red Rising, when you read that, is more cut. The fast pace energy to it. That's the thing. It is. Now, how do you feel about it is what your rating is, or whatnot. But it's also tough because we've had a conversation about this on the pod as well, where let's make the extreme statement of, is there a world where The Room is objectively better art than Casablanca? Now, when you make those extremes of like, now the key word in there is better. What do you mean by better? Because is the better to somebody like, I subjectively I laugh more, I have a fun time, and I enjoy The Room because it's so ridiculous and I like that. So that's better to me. I think the more you're able to define the term of what does better mean. Okay, better to you means this. That just the more granular you can get, the more objectivity you can be by what you mean. But if you're just use the broad brush of like, hey, subjective feelings exist, certainly, yeah.
But those extremes definitely highlight that it's not all subjective. There's not. There is such a sense. Now there is some degree of good and bad. It's. But between those two fence posts, a lot of disagreement can be. But yeah, with comparison of The Room or Casablanca, if someone tells you no, objectively, like The Room is a better movie, you'd be like, that's just factually wrong. That's incorrect. Maybe you enjoy it more, but technically no.
Because you could say, like Rich, objectively it's better art. Because then we have to discuss, okay, what is art to you? Well, art is this, and this is why this is objectively better, because look at, you can keep going down that
which
line.
Kind of goes with our whole category system is, it is subjective of what categories we chose to pick and what we find valuable in a work, but we spent a lot of time with it. But once we have subjectively picked these categories, those are our objective standards. Now, okay, we collectively have a standard to pick to. So when we're talking about it, everyone can kind of be on the same page. And so when Austin and I are talking about something, we're talking about the same thing instead of disagreeing, like instead of missing each other. That's so not even just characters. Characters is not a category because it's not just that. We base it on irreplaceable on one end being the best. It's an irreplaceable character. And the far end is like nonsensical.
Incoherent's the word we use,
incoherent.
Right?
Yeah. The middle, like being neutral, it's a coherent character, but also very replaceable. And so we know within that. And so based on that scale, where do we put the characters of that story? And so, yes, it is all, at the end of the day, I guess, subjective, but we try to bring some objectivity to it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think well, I'll tie it into this. So there's a often misused phrase if you're out in the world of like business or customer service or whatnot. People will use the phrase "the customer is always right." And I work my job specifically has me dealing with customers and customer service type things a lot, and I can tell you that that is not true. And in fact, the more I don't know if it's the original version of the phrase, but it's certainly the more accurate version of the phrase is that the customer is always right in matters of taste. Because it's like if you're saying that this burger does not taste good to you, like all right, fair enough, but this is what you ordered. Like, and if you say this is not what you ordered, like that is just not true. And so there's like, I mean, I was talking with John Mitten a few months ago, and like John Mitten doesn't like Casablanca, which is like insane to me. Like I can't imagine that. Like Casablanca, like I went into that movie being like, this is the greatest of all great movies. Surely it can't be good. And like walked out of it being like, that's like one of the best things I've ever seen. Like,
how does he not like? He was like a teenager when that came out. How did he not like it?
That's right. Oh, that's right. So, but it's like, guess what? Like, if that's your personal taste, that's fine. But like, once again, like when I talk with him, like John Mann is very willing to talk about how the acting is great, the dialogue is phenomenal, the way shots are framed is very well done. There's a lot of things that we can objectively assess are very, very good. That say when you watch like, I don't know, a Michael Bay Transformers movie, and it's like, look, here's like visual effects that aren't finished in the corner. That is objectively like a badly made aspect of this movie. And I guess I'm picking on movies because it's maybe a little easier to point out.
Yeah. Sure.
But like, I don't know. There's a certain sense of like not wanting to hurt people's feelings and not wanting to step on toes. And like, yeah, we don't want to say that, you know, if you really like something and you identify with a certain book, like, okay, I don't want to be a jerk and tell you that it's trash or you know, and I certainly don't want somebody saying that to, you know, about my favorite books. I wouldn't like that. But I do think that there is a certain level of being able to objectively assess whether or not the things that the book has set out to do are done well or not. And some of that is down to personal experience, but there are certain, especially when it comes down to technical things, that you can really assess that on, which I don't know if the grading system that you guys have come up with helps with that or not, but it certainly seems to lean that way.
Oh yeah, a lot of my books that I would give overall like a 2 to a 2.5 star, you'll see like the prose and the world building is often a 4 or something like that. Because I think at least with some of the categories, you can somewhat be a little bit more objective in air quotes, because when you're talking about prose, you know, okay, prose, the skill level, the things that we mean by good prose, we also have that in our document of what we know what our 5 and our 1 is. Basically, our 5 is it should you emulate it? Is it that author's voice, and is it also well written? So that we can get all into the weeds, but for something like prose, where I guess it can lead to more objectivity, but then our first category of emotional impact is, right. Hey, were you excited? Were you sad? All these things is a lot more subjective. And then obviously the characters in that kind of get mixed into both, because, hey, if you're not emotionally invested, the characters kind of drop, but hey, are they coherent enough? So it's like our scale certainly has its subjective parts and more like, hey, just straight up, is the world immersive enough? Is the prose well done? And again, that leads you into the whole battle of like also prose. Some prose isn't, some prose is subjectively worse to people because it's unreadable, or they have a different experience and they don't read that type of books or literature. Like I know you love Gene Wolfe so much. Some people would say it's awful prose because it's like, what's going on right now? What's happening? But then you look at that person and go, it's Gene Wolfe. What are you talking about? You're just not smart enough. and I was not smart enough for I've waited to go to book 2. I can't wait to go to book 2 because I can't wait to learn more. Because
I had to buy the reading companion for the second book. It helped. It helped a lot. But yeah.
But Rich, what do you think on that with the scale of how there's some subjective parts, objective parts? I know we're using the terms a little loosely, but
yeah, I mean, Sam was getting at a certain part here of what is the book going for?
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is a lot of what I'm trying to think of is matters of taste is what I want the book to do and what I am looking for. And I think that's where you can go pretty wrong in rating something, versus trying to see, hey, trying to figure out what is this book trying to go for? What is the author trying to do here? And did they succeed at that? So an emotional impact score, the reason why it's kind of important, it is subjective, but like, okay,
Right.
if the author's trying to make me laugh and I didn't laugh, it failed for me.
Yeah.
Is that due to the author's ability or my disconnection? Maybe I didn't understand the context, so I didn't get the humor. But again, it's like the author and I are having a conversation, and if they tell a joke that I just didn't get the context of, is that my fault? Is that their fault? It's just a miscommunication at that point.
Sure.
But trying to judge the book for what it is trying to do, I think, is far more important.
Yeah, Samwise, is the author dead?
Well, I mean, Austin, you're an author, and you look plenty alive to me. So
I am alive. Yes, but hey, I can't be an author until there's a book written, though. I'm aspiring.
There you go.
Yes.
But you actually picked a good example there with Wolf, because like plenty of people bounce off Wolf for perfectly understandable reasons. But the number of times that I've heard people, like you said, with emotional impact there, who have been like I can see how this is great. Well, actually, I just had a friend who went through like an IRL friend who just went through Book of the New Sun this last year, and that was what he said. He's like, the writing, very good, world building, very good, lots of cool concepts. I could not care at all about any of the characters or any of what was going on. And like for me, like that's not a problem. I am like deeply invested in Severian as a character. I've also like read the series plenty of times now, so that it's like, there's layers of context here in terms of my investment. But like I have no problems being emotionally invested in that story. But like for him, like that was a real issue. And so, it's like, hey, like, I get it. But he was also able to see on a technical level, there are a lot of really clever things that are going on here that you don't see in, your by the numbers sci-fi author.
And that's where I guess why the categories kind of work for us is if he was able to write that out, the pros would be, hey, let's say 4.5 stars, the world building 4 stars, emotional impact 1.5, and you see his total score is a 2, and you go, that 2 is being drawn from he didn't emotionally connect with it, even though he sees that the writing's done well, or like whatever he rated characters or the themes, the thought provokingness. It kind of just helps to explain rather than just giving a blanket score. Because a lot of Rich and I's frustration with just rating systems in general or going on Goodreads, especially Goodreads, every book on Goodreads is rated from a 3.5 to a 4.4, 4.3, 4.2.
I believe it's 90% of all scores are between a 3.5 and a 4.2.
So like at what point is that just not useful at all?
It's never useful. No, who would go to look at Goodreads for? And I just looked up the book you were recommending to us. Oh my goodness, I had it up for a second. What was it called? Jordan recommended it.
Oh, Wolf Hall.
Wolf Hall as like a 3.99. And everybody that talks about that book says it's literally the next coming of Christ. From what I've heard of that book, but it's just it's very hard to tell with just seeing these blanket scores of what does that mean, at least in an aggregate. That's a whole nother tangent of, well, the rating site that we're actually building, the rating site, ramblerating.com, it's not out yet, that people will be able to use the categories in the rating system. And we're also going to integrate the Rotten Tomatoes-esque percentage approval. So instead of you just seeing, hey, this book's a 4 out of 5 like every single other one is, it'll have a 90% approval, 50% approval. Like it'll be, not rotten fresh because we'll have different words for it, but it'll be how many people gave this at least a 3.5. So I got it. 95% of critics say it's good. So that's why John, who doesn't like Casablanca, needs to go on Rotten Tomatoes and see, okay, there's something here.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. Well, I will say, just to chase the bunny trail for a little bit, I feel a little vindicated with you guys, like now having started Book of the New Sun, because I don't know if you remember, but right before, since we talked about this at the beginning, right, like the last conversation I had with you guys right before I left the Patreon was being like, guys, I started this book. It's called Shadow of the Torture. It's insane. You've got to check it out. So, and now we're here. So that's exciting.
And we got to get book 2 on our channel. I know we've said that last year, but getting all those people at one time is so hard.
Yeah,
We had a date at some point, but then it all fell through because I actually read book 2 in preparation for it, but oh well.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know. I could spend the whole time talking about Gene Wolfe, but I will ask, like, tentatively, like, I know we had the big group discussion, but that was what, like 6 months ago at this point or something. I am curious, like, what's your level of like excitement for finishing the series? Where are you kind of like sitting? Is this like, oh, this is interesting? Is this like, hook in the mouth? Where do you guys sit as far as New Sun goes?
Well, so I already finished book 2, and so I'm
Apu
pretty
Punch
invested.
Out.
Yeah, I'm invested in kind of what that's going on. However, so much about, I don't know, four-ish months have passed since I've read it, so the excitement has died a little bit. It's waned. I would probably reread it for the discussion. To me, it just seems like the biggest puzzle piece, and the fact that we read book 1 and I didn't really get it. And then our discussion happened. I'm like, oh, there's so much more. I have so high expectations that there's going to be a conclusion, that this is a puzzle piece waiting to be put together. Also, just kind of how depressing it all is just like this morose story. I'm very jazzed.
The longer that's passed for me, the more excited I've been getting, mainly because I just haven't read anything like it. And you just can't find anything like it anywhere in fantasy, or let alone, I'm pretty sure, in books as far as I'm aware. But this is something that Rich and I have certainly done in the new year, is we're really trying to prevent burnout with books, because we're being fed a lot of books and being handed like, hey, we've got to read this and this and this and this. We've been having to start a lot of series and then not be able to finish, and we do want to finish them. So at least for me, why the delay's been there, well, one, we got to get the group together, but two, it's something I want to take my time with it. I'm excited to read it and not feel the pressure of, hey, you got to finish it by this date. Basically a mood read of whenever I'm in the mood to just, okay, I want to spend the next week invested in this and paying attention, because it's one of those, you have to be hyper aware. I think I'm going to do an immersive read, audio and physical, just to make it so it's not one I'm going to, go between both when I'm in the house and out of the house. I just want to constantly like study this one. That's how I'm taking this going forward, because I'm excited to see. It's very fun when you know an author's so much smarter than you, and like, okay, I can't wait to learn something. That's the excitement that I have.
Yeah, and just to touch on one thing that you said there, Rich, about it being structured like a puzzle. That's some of what Shadow of the Torturer, and why it can be a difficult book to get into. Some of it is kind of like it's almost like breaking in a shoe, where it's like you're kind of having to like train your reading brain to think a little bit differently about this story than you do with like almost anything else that you read. Like it's sort of like tuning yourself to like the wavelength that Wolfe is writing on, which like you can do, but like it's a little bit different.
Well, it definitely was evident that book 2 was a lot easier for me to read.
Okay.
It's weird, like I was picking up more little hints, but also the lack of trust I have in the narrators like dropped. So I'm like, okay, I need to focus. What is being said? What's especially not being said? Hey, there seems to be a gap here. What's going on?
Yeah.
So it was a lot easier once I was tuned in, but it also is just such a weird world.
That's true. That's certainly true. Austin, you alluded to something a minute ago. You said like you guys have been wanting to make sure you don't get burned out, in starting all of these series. In what ways has because you guys run a big book club as part of like your Patreon with your channel, and you talk about a lot of them on the podcast. Like, in what ways has having a book club been positive, and also maybe a struggle running a podcast like you guys do?
The book club's honestly my favorite part. It's the community aspect, and also getting a book recommended once a month isn't too far for me, at least. Like that, I like being forced outside of my comfort zone every once in a while. And I say that because the book clubs pick some of my favorite books. So even not every single one's been a hit, but there's been so many books I wouldn't have read, at least in the near term, that have been voted on and picked and we talk about that I just love. And that's the great part. The worst part about it is that we start the book, we do book ones of a series and I love it. And then other things get in the way, other recommendations come in, and then that leads us astray from being able to finish the series I was already loving. I think a lot of that, though, it's some of it's self-inflicted with us. We were judges in the SPFBO last year, and that's the self-published fantasy blog off hosted by Mark Lawrence, where we have to read the 10 of those self-published book, rank them, and so we had to be going back to those books, back to the book club book, maybe fit a book we want in, and then go back. So it was a lot of having very little choice in that time frame, but at the same time, we wanted to do the competition, and we're happy to we love judging things and people. Come on, and so. It's a little bit of like that with the book club. I love that it gets us every once in a while to get these books we otherwise wouldn't have loved. But then it's not that it's supposed to be homework, but you never want reading to feel like a chore. And that's what Rich and I were talking about a little bit. As soon as it feels like a job, hold on, we got to reevaluate something, because it shouldn't feel like a chore to read anything. At least, Rich, I know you'd agree with that part, at least.
Yeah, I think it's two factors of. It is, I think, for me, primarily the expectation, especially a lot of last year, of when reading a book one, always in the back of my head, I kind of just knew we weren't going to get to book two, whether I liked it or not. Like, I could really love book one, and I just won't get to book two because I just know how our reading schedule is. And that kind of bums you out a little bit of, like, knowing you'll not really finish it. But then also, I think it's just genre fatigue. Of some of my favorite reads have definitely been the breakout of just reading something to a little fresh. When I read Lonesome Dove, it was one of those okay, I've been reading so much fantasy, I need to read something different. So I read a Western Lonesome Dove, and I mean, I love it. It's my favorite book, but beyond that, it was a great break. Right now, a current break book of okay, we've been reading a lot of fantasy. I want to get back in the groove, something a little outside. Was currently reading The Man Who Was Thursday by G.K. Chesterton.
Okay. Richard, read it, but here's what I'll say. Hold it right here in the back of your head as you read Book of the New Sun, because Chesterton is a massive influence for Wolf. And I'm not gonna say any more than that, other than I adore The Man Who Was Thursday. It is. How far are you?
Hold on. I think I am.
Show me your new your new
I got a new e-reader. You want to look at it?
Sure. What is this?
It's so tiny. It's so tiny.
That's so small.
Do you have microscopes that you carry around to read it with?
He's literally uncompensating. You can't
have one word per page, so you're just swiping to read the next word.
I mean,
that's tiny.
Dude, it's the text of a book. It's no smaller.
Okay.
Than I don't know, mass market.
Sure.
I'm on chapter 5, by the way. But no, I love this thing. I've been loving reading on it. It's the size of my wallet. And I can just I pull it out during the grocery store if I'm waiting in line.
Instead of
without
scrolling,
my little book. It's great.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love The Man Who Was Thursday, so I'm glad you're reading it. Are you gonna get Austin to read it so you can talk about it on the pod?
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe reviewing it tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see if Austin can finish it. If not, then it'll be next week.
Yeah, we're doing it tomorrow or next week, one of the two.
Nice.
But
yeah, we love
chapter 1 on its own. I finished chapter 1 and I called Austin chapter 1 alone could be a podcast episode.
Yeah.
The concept it is presenting is enough for a good discussion.
Yeah.
And that's chapter 1. Oh Lord. I'm having a fantastic time. G.K. Chesterton is just, he's one of those linguists that legendary status.
Yeah.
He's a cut above the rest. He has this whimsical, almost lyrical way of lyrical prose, similar to a Terry Pratchett. Of with Terry Pratchett, the most magnificent thing about him is being able to convey multiple nuggets of information of like for doing character work, world building, plot, pushing the plot along while also making you laugh, all in the same line, and doing that consistently through a whole book. Where the reason why his novels are so short is because he's damn efficient. He's so good at writing. He can tell a whole ass story in like 150 pages, and it feels like a 400 page novel.
Yeah.
And Chesterton, I feel, is the same way. Of so much happens in so little page time. I'm just so impressed with the man. He is brilliant.
Is this your first Chesterton?
We've been reading the essays, but this is the first novel of his that I've read.
Nice.
Or I am reading.
Yeah. No, I need to read more. I've only read the one novel from him, so there's a lot more that he wrote. So I need to get on it. But
I mean, the guy is a legendary essayist. Like he's written over like 1,000, like well over 1,000 essays, I believe. And
we have his essay book. Yeah.
My God, it's not even all of them. It's just like the highlights. Oh my God, who has a highlight reel of essays? That's it's wild. It's a wild thing.
Yeah. So you said you're working on like breaking out of the genre a little more. So besides The Man Who Was Thursday, what are some things like going forward in 2026 that are maybe outside of SFF that you're like, maybe I should try that? Well, that sounded interesting. I've heard this, recommended.
We're definitely going more on our classics journey. We did a little bit of that last year with Monte Cristo, Pride and Prejudice. I'm probably forgetting another one we did, but we're going to do a little bit more classics because I feel like Rich and I, we have the goal of reading more, obviously with quantity, but we want to be able to self-reference things and to have more knowledge of the inspirations of other books that are written, so that we're also just better speakers and more knowledgeable about books on the podcast, because our goal is to get better and better at the information side of things, or at the expertise kind of stuff. Although we fail most of the time at that, we're trying at least to be better at that. And a lot of that's going to be with reading these more classic books, the older stuff. And I haven't read Asimov actually, which is one of those like, holy crap, how have I not read a book by Asimov? And so that's one thing with classics. But another one in there is I was at my goodness, this is how BookTube, I guess, that can get in the way sometimes. I was at a bookstore like 6 months ago or 7 months ago, something like that. And I bought some thrillers off that I was really excited about. Actually, I was like, I want to read a quick thriller. And they're on my bookshelf. I just haven't touched them. So thriller's another thing I just want to get into a little bit, because why not? As just a not fantasy sci-fi thing every once in a while. But what about you, Rich? Is it similar with classic?
Yeah, similar. To give an example of, we were talking to our friend Summer, and she was talking about the Del Toro Frankenstein movie, and we were going to watch it, then went, actually, let's read the book first and then watch the movie, because I've never read Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I mean, seems important to me. That seems like an important one. But no, as far as genres, I want to get back into mystery novels personally. Yeah. That was my genre as a kid. I would read fantasy and sci-fi a bit, but my favorite genre to read when I first started reading till I stopped reading in like high school-ish was mysteries. So I read the entire Hardy Boys catalog, all of them. I went through the library of every available Hardy Boys book. Some of my favorite novel series, the Flavia de Luce by Alan Bradley. To me, it's just so much fun. I love those. I even like Dan Brown. the Dan Brown mysteries. You know, I don't know. Sue me.
It's a classic like airport book right there. You know,
it is. But you know what? It's fun. I like mystery. Sure. I like Sherlock Holmes stories. So that would be the genre I want to break out and get back into this year.
Okay. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. No, and part of it, we were talking about him before we hit record here. Part of it came from the admonition of Steve Donahue, who I would call a friend. I hope Steve would say the same. But because he talked about, like, especially on Fantasy BookTube, it's easy to be like, oh, that sounds cool, I'll read that. Oh, that sounds cool, I'll read that. And pretty soon, the only thing that you're reading is this one genre. Yeah. And one of the points that he would make is, like, you can appreciate it a lot more, actually, if you read more widely than just, like, the one thing. And that many of, like, the best sci-fi and fantasy authors, like, that's what they do, is they take elements from other genres that maybe the readers aren't as familiar with, and then twisted in a new way or represented in a new way, and that makes it feel fresh in a genre. And so, yeah, I've been trying to read a little bit more. The one thing that I've been focusing on recently that I've been trying to read more is historical fiction, because you know, I get it. It's not history books, but things that are set in history is still, like, fascinating to me. And so, you know, you mentioned Wolf Hall earlier. That's one that I read late December, early January, and is really good, you know. And then I haven't read Lonesome Dove yet, but last year tried to hit some of the classics of, like, Pillars of the Earth and Shogun, and then Lonesome Dove probably will happen this year. So,
oh, you're in for a great time. Remind me after this. I have a off recording thing to tell you about Lonesome Dove.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, fun. But no, Lonesome Dove is one of those perfect novels of, it won a Pulitzer Prize for a reason. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be the most immersive characters. It's some of the most well-written characters. It's fun to study it. Like, how does he do that to Woodrow Call? Oh, the names as well are so good. Gus McCrae. Jake Spoon.
The funniest thing is, okay, my mom was telling me about our cousin that apparently met Larry McMurtry at some signing event, and they were doing a question and answer type deal. Mm-hmm. And apparently my cousin asked the question. Who asked the question? I don't know who, but basically, do characters' names matter? And apparently my cousin was like, it's a character name. No, it doesn't matter. It's just name. You can name the same character Steve as long as you describe it, and, like, it's their journey that matters, not their name. And there, McMurtry said, absolutely not. Character names matter a hell of a lot. It matters so much because it is your window into the character. It's your snapshot that often just the consonants and sounds that you put in your mouth about the character say something. And it also, a good character name will stick in your head. And if you want the character to live off your page, they have to be memorable. If it's just another John Smith, I don't care how good the character was, how well it was written. There's so many John Smiths that it's a much harder task to make that one the John Smith of John Smiths. Versus if you have Jake Spoon. Never heard that name before.
That's right.
It's just I gotta feel a certain way about it. It's unique, iconic, and I'll always remember it. And so there will only ever be one Jake Spoon.
Yeah. I mean, how many guys do you know named, like, Hadrian Marlowe? You know?
Come on now.
God, what a great name.
Only one, yeah. Yeah. What would you guys say? Because you said you get, like, a lot of recommendations doing the podcast, doing the channel. What is was a book for both of you that was, like, completely not on your radar, never would have thought to pick it up, but, like, really blew you away that you heard about because you've been doing the podcast?
Oh man!
Oh, there's so many of those. Like one recently
was one of them.
I think one that we certainly would have never heard of would have been, I mean, I got to go more to the indie route, like Pilgrims by M.R. Leonard is one that absolutely would have never seen it in my life if not having BookTube.
Where'd you hear of
And
it?
the author reached out to us, and
Okay.
authors will reach out to us all the time. I know you're familiar with this too, Sam. Was like all booktubers, authors reach out to you,
Yeah.
and it's hard to catch your eye sometimes with the amount of requests. And this one did. I mean, the pitch of it is, hey, the aliens are invading Earth, and the aliens are Catholic. And I'm going, what? I need to find out now. And also Jeff Hayes did the narration on the audiobook. So that was all great. But something like Pilgrims, where it just never would have been on my radar, and it's something just a very special, fun book that is done so well. I think something like that, or our friends, the Mittens, the Discovery as well. Things like that just blow my mind. And they're these indie books that without BookTube, we would have never discovered. Versus I want to say some of my favorites too, like Lions of Al-Rasan or Children of Time, those big names. I still probably wouldn't have read those if it weren't for BookTube. Just because who knows what pathway, if you don't have it, some people don't recommend. But there's a world where I could imagine reading those because they're popular enough. So I'd say, especially with BookTube, it's the more those self-pub small books are. That's the cream of the crop for like the undiscovered ones I would have never read otherwise. And I can't even say that for Sword of Kaigen anymore because it's so popular. So I want to save that because some of them do break through and are so popular now.
The recent one for me that I know you covered somewhat recently was By Blood, by Salt. That was kind of a standout one of, I really appreciated that one, and I wouldn't have ever read it if not for BookTube. I really enjoyed book 1, and book 2 is equally fantastic. However, I'm on edge of where this is going to go because it's gone in a different direction than I kind of anticipated. So we'll find out. Have you read only book 1, or did you read
Just
the
book
second
1?
book?
Yeah, I have the second one, but just
how did you like book 1?
I haven't gotten around to it. I really liked it. I was I don't know. There's a even in a lot of self-pub fantasy that I like, there's often a feeling of like this is half baked, you know, or maybe 3/4 baked, or like that checks out that this is an indie book and still really good and still a lot of things that I like about it. And By Blood, by Salt was I've been recently reading Curse of the Chalian by Lois McMaster Bujold, and honestly the writing style is somewhat reminiscent of like how Odom wrote. I don't know. I'm sure somebody who does a prose breakdown could disagree with me, but in terms of the vibe of how they write, there's a certain like maturity to it in terms of how they approach the story. And I don't know. I was very impressed with like Odom's writing specifically, and being able to make a military story that is not an action story still like very compelling and interesting. And you know, obviously like really good world building that I liked as well. So yeah, so I'm certainly interested to read on. I just haven't made the time to my shame.
Yeah, no, that was, I completely agree with you on all that. It's definitely one of the standout reads, especially of last year. But yeah, the prose was a cut above the rest, really.
Yeah, so we read all the SPFBO's winners of the past 10 years. That one had the best prose by far, and that's including Sword of Kaigen. And Sword of Kaigen is one of my favorite books. But By Blood, by Salt had even amongst the other 9 indie books, felt the most. Now, was professional the wrong word? Just felt the most polished, if that's the right thing, because that's a whole nother thing too of in the indie space. These fantastic stories, sometimes you can't go through the multiple rounds of editing that trad can. But that's obviously changing too with different tools. But that's why it especially stood out, because it's surprising that it's better than not just your average trad, but like it's the top percentile of them.
What how did judging, did you guys, how many rounds of SPFBO did you guys judge? I'll ask that first.
It was the one we did the Contest of Champions, which was so it wasn't us selecting a book and having it picked and then goes into the pile of 10. It was, hey, this started in 2015 and this was 2025. Every year, one of them won. We're looking at the 10 winners and we're saying, here's our favorite and here's our last.
How did judging that, or I should ask, did judging that change your view of self-publishing at all? Or like self-published like fantasy books? Did that change how you guys had thought of that category before?
I guess there's two aspects. I mean, on both sides of the spectrum of these are the champions, so these are the best of the competition every year. And there's some great standouts of books that, fantastic reads, wonderful. There are others that really could have used some extra polish. And so it kind of cemented I think, both of our opinion on indie books in general. And that because of its pure volume and unfettered access of like, there's no guardrails, there's no barriers, that you're going to get a lot of things that are not ready, half baked, just not quite ready for prime time. But because there are no guardrails, there are no barriers, you're going to get some of the freshest things, some of the things on bleeding edge that just most publishers are not going to publish. I think By Blood, by Salt is one of those, of mainly its depiction of its world and how it specifically handles oppression, racism, those kind of dynamics.
Yeah.
I don't think a trad publisher would pick that up in the way it was handled.
Interesting.
At least my opinion, because when I look at trad publishing and how it handles this kind of topic, it does it with a very easy brush, like kind of paint by numbers. It's not no kind of nuance. With By Blood, by Salt, was willing to show like a history of characters, like why they have such like racial prejudice, why is there generational hatred, and not one side or the other. It's like all of these different sides. It's a mixing pot of prejudice, hate, how you overcome it. Is it all of them? No, it's a part of their lives, and like it's wonderfully deep, wonderfully complex. I don't think many stories would handle it that way.
Yeah, I would say on that too. With the fun part about reading in the competition was getting to see that those new kind of tanks. The books I liked less in the competition were the ones that felt like a lesser version of the trad book you've read before. But at least in the competition, these were the best of the best. So we were reading mostly amazing books, and so there was you could tell throughout this specific competition too that there were certain years where subgenres were more popular, I think. So there was the grimdark year, there was the romantasy year. Not that those are out of style at all, but it seems like the competition in this was very segmented into specific genres that won. There wasn't a monolith of, hey, this is usually the winner. So that was fun as well. I think for at least, again, just this competition, you're also picking from authors who want their book to go into this competition in the first place, to then get more recognition and, obviously be read by more people. But at the same time, so each judge is looking at 30 different books and they pick one of those to go on to the next stage. And you're probably missing out on, of those 30 books, is the judge able to read all 30 of those and give the same due diligence to every single one? Maybe not, because they can't. You have 6 months to read 30 books. Well, some people can do that. Rich and I wouldn't be able to. So that's why we didn't do those round of SPFPL. We had to do just the judging of 10. But I'm curious too, because which ones fall through the crack that are just those hidden gems, which is what's really fun about indie. Because that's the allure of, hey, here's a book that nobody's talking about that's super cool. It has a little bit more fun. That's why I love to hype up the Mittens with Discovery or these type of indie books, because we're going, holy crap, we can get super excited, and it's not like, oh my god, did you read A Game of Thrones? It's
right.
really good. That
certainly
I like
doesn't
that a
help.
lot. Yeah.
Doesn't help YouTube and algorithm stuff at all.
No, no.
If we wanted YouTube numbers, we would just be talking about Game of Thrones over and over.
No, manga.
That's right.
That's true. Manga. That would be
Berserk is where the money is.
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever see us regularly reviewing manga on our channel, you know we've sold out.
If you see that, Samwise, join the Patreon again because we're out of cash. If you see us covering manga, we need it desperately. So,
well, that's the interesting thing about the Tournament of Champions is like you guys, because I watched the video where you guys gave your breakdown on here was our favorites 1 through 10 and all of that.
Yep.
And interestingly, a couple of those champions have gone on to get trad deals.
Yeah.
And by Blood by Salt and Sword of Kaigen, like spoiler alert, aren't the ones that got those trad deals. So it is interesting how, like you said, sometimes maybe it's trends, sometimes it's maybe like what's hot at the time, but it's interesting like what caught a publisher's eye about certain books versus other ones, which like Sword of Kaigen and By Blood by Salt are two of the ones that definitely get hailed as some of the better books that have come out of the SPFBO championship. And that's interesting to me. I'm not fully sure why that is, but that is interesting to me.
It is not surprising to me. Just both of those books do something very deviant from the standard way of writing, of like the current popular structure of fantasy novels. I think they're both different enough that most publishers kind of go, a little too different. And people are going to bounce off this one. It takes too long to get invested, and it goes in a different direction that maybe most people would be expecting. I think that's probably why. Like By Blood by Salt, especially, I think you do like you got to be a little invested into it. You got to be willing to read it on.
Yeah.
It's because it's a military drama or a military. What would be the right thing? Not military drama, but
military. I think just military fantasy.
Military fantasy without a lot of action.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why a publisher would be like, maybe we don't want to pick this one.
We have like a couple like bandits attack them or something like halfway through, like spice it up a bit.
Also, it was the most recent winner, wasn't it? Just this past year, so it's had the least amount of time. I know Sword of Kaigen's had more time, but also for those authors, I'm not sure if Emma Wang, if she gets offered trad, is it financially a good idea for her? Because I'm not sure. Does she making a lot more money by letting it do what's doing now? I'm curious on the financial side. I just don't know enough about it.
As far as I'm aware, basically everyone we've talked to, if you're popular enough, indie publishing is more profitable. But to get to that level is something else. That's
right, because it's hard, right? Because you have all the upfront costs that you have to deal with. So it's like, but like if you're Brandon Sanderson, and honestly, I'm surprised that more authors haven't done this, because there's the whole like, did he change the publishing industry with the Kickstarter thing? And everyone was like, no, he didn't, stupid. Only he could do it. And it's like, well, like, no, not really. You think of it, like you take somebody with like a relatively established name and be like, what would even be a good example? Oh, geez.
Honestly, John Gwynne.
Yeah, like, okay, that's a great example. So if John Gwynne said, like, hey, I've got this deal with, like, who publishes him? Orbit?
I'm
assuming. Yeah, so if he said, hey, I've got this series coming out with Orbit, but I've been working on this other thing on the back burner, and I don't have any commitments to Orbit. Or, like, if Christopher did this, like, think of how nuts people would go. If he was like, hey, I've got this deal, but then I've also got this book going on, and guess what? Because somebody like John Gwynne has the money to pay for a cover and pay for the editors and all the things that trad normally affords you, and then he's got the name recognition so that he'll have the publicity. All those things that trad normally affords you, he can put that up front, run a Kickstarter, and then like he gets all of the profit of it. He doesn't have to split it with the publisher. It's like, man, I wonder why more authors don't, once they get established, don't pursue that route. And I'm sure I'm speaking from ignorance, but like,
I think the other avenue is what type of online presence do they already have? You think of someone like Dan Brown would not do well in a Kickstarter. Or at least not. It would be a lot of work for him that he doesn't have set up. people I don't believe follow Dan Brown on social media. He doesn't have a YouTube channel that people are clamoring over. Doesn't have a podcast type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
He makes his money because his book is in every airport bookstore. He's front page every time a new book comes out. He is center stage at every Barnes and Noble. Like, he makes his sales through being on the shelves. And so one of those those kind of authors, maybe it's not worth going indie. But those authors that they're in the bookshelves, but they have an online presence, like Christopher Rocchio has a good online presence. He probably could benefit from it. But then again, he also just benefits from doing special editions that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other avenue. Because the number one negative of going indie is you're not going to be in the Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be where people are buying books. And so that's really going to be difficult.
And we've talked a bit like generically about indie stuff and have said like, oh, don't be half-baked, don't cut corners, stuff like that. From the amount of reading, both with SPFBO and then just generally the reading that you guys have done, seeing other like self-pub authors, what would you say is like the most like consistent mistake that you see self-pub authors making?
Great question. A consistent mistake just in any part of the craft, or
Sure.
Okay. You mean with the books themselves, not with the marketing side of things?
With the books.
Okay.
Huh. I'll start off. I think one of an overlooked or unappreciated aspect of writing is basically character stage presence. Where is the character on stage? How much time has passed? Do I know where they are in relation to another character? And can I picture the scene? With indie books, I tend to have a harder time with that. It's surprisingly difficult, and it's a skill that I think most trad publishers, like, that's done out the door. Editor, they've worked that out. But a lot of indie books will struggle where the reader will be confused from scene to scene of like, wait, what time has passed? What day is, like, things get really confused.
Interesting.
One thing I've noticed in a couple of them, and this is also totally fine to have, but sometimes I hear the author's voice too much, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Because I am somebody who don't kill the author. Like, this is the author's work. It's a conversation with the author. That's a whole nother debate. But sometimes, like, the trick of writing is to feel like you're not reading something by an author at the same time. Like, hey, Tolkien's the true escapism. You're creating a secondary world. Completely forget about the new world. Often, in some fantasies or in some indie published books, there can be lines that feel like, oh, the author is talking about something that broke the world immersion, for example. Like, says a line I agree with. Like, it's, a noble thing to say and whatnot, but I'm going like, oh, we're in like the medieval times fantasy land. Like, I get that.
I'm his therapist.
Yeah, no, I get that. The author over-explained, making clear that, hey, this is the book. It's not what I believe, type of thing, which of course, but sometimes the indie could over-explain or over-tell the reader what they should think. And since we were reading, again, the SPFBOs, which were the winners, we didn't get a lot of that, but that is what you can see in self-pub books, which even in some of my favorite self-pub books, there's lines of that where it breaks immersion for a little bit, which in more trad books, that does happen in trad books too, but I see it more in indie often. Also,
subtlety in dialogue. I think that's also, I think, something harder that indie books will often have, like, be very direct and kind of on the nose with their dialogue, versus maybe an indie space or a trad space will be a little bit more subtle.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, those are good things to consider. So I'm just like spitballing questions here, but it's interesting to pick your guys' brain on these things. You've mentioned some favorite books that you've read over the course of the channel. Like Lonesome Dove has been thrown out, Sword of Kaigan. These are all like, famous books. Some of them are classics of the genre. What would you say is like your favorite book or a favorite book that like is super underrated that you would put in like a top 5 or 10, but you feel like nobody talks about or covers?
I feel like we don't hear it enough, and Rich and I don't talk about it enough. It's also a popular book, but it's just not stated enough. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer is pretty much a masterpiece. The I don't think I appreciated it immediately.
That was back during my my Discord days,
you
my
were
book club
there.
days.
You're in the Patreon,
yeah.
You guys were joking about like having a Jeff Vandermeer party and like kind of clowning on the guy. I'm like, do you guys not like the book? This is a fantastic book.
It's kind of brilliant. It really is amazing, and I just don't hear it talked about a ton in the space. But I might say that's the number in my top 10. I might. I'd have to actually think through what it would be, but it's one that comes to mind that I just don't hear enough. And wow, that is an amazing book. It's really good. Oh, and what's surprising about that too is horror, that kind of cosmic stuff isn't my go-to genre, and the fact that it got me. Wow. Well, Rich, anything come to mind for you? Did I stall enough?
Sure. Stuff that we have talked about it, but I don't see as often talked about in the space. Maybe I need to explore the space a bit more. But A Fire Upon the Deep. I don't feel is talked about enough of how revolutionary sci-fi that is. Of it is mind-breaking. It is that high concept sci-fi. It is the definition of what I think of what I want in a sci-fi. Of the story of a nerd who keeps seeing this scientific concept explained wrong. And so to solve this issue, he's like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to explain this scientific concept in a story just so he can prove it wrong. Him going the singularity doesn't make sense. How can the humans and the singularity both exist? He's like, I'm going to come up with a sci-fi fictional world for this to actually work. That's the level of nerd I aspire to be.
I hate that we both brought up what are probably very popular books and well loved.
Yeah, I mean they are.
Yeah, they are. But you don't hear enough in our space. You're right. In our space, you don't.
Yeah.
I know Sanderson loves Fire Upon the Deep. He often will bring it up and say it's one of his favorite books. And yeah, you're damn right. It's so good.
And that's just one of the weird things about spaces like BookTube, and it's not necessarily a criticism. It's just observing that it's what happens. Is that there will be people who are very successful or very big, but because they're not you're not hearing it recommended by 3 different people, so it seems it's not as broken. And like I mentioned her before, Lois McMaster Bujold has won more Hugos than any other SFF author, and okay, in the last few years, a few booktubers have been reading more Bujold and recommending her, but you never see her on most people's top 10 lists or favorite lists or in our circles. But in terms of outside of booktube and the SFF space, she's enormously praised and well regarded. And
that's I'm curious what you'd think. Oh yeah, go ahead.
To that point, I do have another then. The Goblin Emperor. To me is not talked about enough. I know Austin's not as big a fan as me, but I think that book's an important read in this, the era of grim dark and all this kind of depressing crap. I find, a hope. What is the genre term?
Hope punk or noble bright or
noble bright.
Yeah, hope punk. They have a whole bunch of.
I
can't deal with hope punk. That is a garbage term.
It's an oxymoron. There is,
but it's noble bright Game of Thrones, and I love it. I wish it was talked about more. And it's also just high concept sci-fi. The world building's amazing. Just the
Goblin Emperor sci-fi?
No, sorry, not sci-fi. Fantasy.
Oh, okay. I was
it's high concept fantasy with literary. The amount of world building done to how the language works is incredibly impressive, and so I hope more people talk about that one. But I interrupted. I'm sorry, Austin.
Oh no, I was gonna. Oh my goodness, I was gonna ask you a question, Sam. What were we talking right before
Bujold.
that? Oh yes. So I'm curious if you agree with this, because in the booktube space, it seems like you have to either be a modern fantasy book, the author's still alive promoting their books or yada yada, or it's such a classic, or it's passed down to generations. Your Lord of the Rings, Narnia's, name it. Those are the ones that you'll see reviewed and talked about. But then there's this gap of, I guess you could say, our parents' generation, maybe the books that aren't classics yet, but they're not modern enough. It's kind of overlooked a bit because it doesn't have the name recognition of the classics, and it doesn't have the modern, like, current press excitement going, the publishers and authors that are promoting it. Do you agree with that? Is this just in my head, in my mind, or does that seem to be the case?
I think there's some truth to it. I wouldn't have put my finger on it quite like that, but I think that there's certainly something to it. Like one of my favorite authors, and he's become a favorite author within the last couple of years, but is like Tim Powers. And just like I adore the books of Tim Powers. But he got really like his heyday when he wrote most of the books that he got a lot of awards and praise for was like the 80s through the early 2000s. And he's still writing. Like he just put out a book last month. And it's like, I am the only person that I know who read the book, I that's not to make a statement about like his sales, and it was an excellent book, but so I don't know how well it sold. I'm just saying, like, Tim Powers is not a name that you hear, in the corners of BookTube, at least not frequently. So, and he would certainly fall into that category of like, he was big in the 80s and 90s as an author, and he's still alive and publishing stuff, but he doesn't quite have the same momentum of, say, John Gwynne.
Yeah.
I would feel the same way with Orson Scott Card is kind of in that category.
Yep.
By the way, I remember us. You're currently reading, or you were reading, the Alvin Maker series recently.
Mm-hmm.
Book 2 is my least favorite book I've ever read, and to hear you giving it such high praise, I am shook.
You're kidding. Least favorite ever
shook.
read.
Yeah.
So enlighten me.
Hate that book with a burning not just hate, I think it's badly written. Bad character work, bad plotting, pacing is awful. Of the entire book is just Alvin monologuing to the reader of like it is the definition of the author preaching at the audience.
So Red Prophet, you're saying?
Yes, Red Prophet. Yeah.
Did you read beyond it?
No, I read the least. Like, I read the book that I hate the most in this world. No, I didn't read all.
Okay. So Red Prophet's my least favorite of the series. I don't hate it, but like it was the one where I was kind of like, okay, but like, that's interesting. That's interesting that you hated it that much. I'm disappointed, man.
It's a pattern though. I have noticed the pattern of Orson Scott Card of try. So, and the correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see if maybe you disagree. First book of Orson Scott Card, if on a series, is good, like interesting concept, but he focuses a lot on the plot, the characters, and really telling an entertaining story that you kind of get sucked into. Second book, you spend a lot more time kind of philosophizing, characters kind of sitting around the campfire and talking about the moral implications of what they're doing. And by the third, it's just so high concept, all talk, no action, no plot, nothing. It almost
wait. Hold on. All talk. So like the scheming, the backstabbing, the like plot to wipe out the Native Americans from like the area by like the redcoats who are coming in, like that's no action. Like the book ends with like a massacre and a battle. Like how is that no action?
Spoiler.
You're never reading it. It's fine.
Yeah, like if Richard hates it that much, I've lost hope for you.
No, I hate that for a different reason. I think the character butchery, especially of Alvin's father, is nonsense. I find that whole setup and premise dumb for most of it. I think it's a kind of betrayal of the characters of it. To me, it just made no sense whatsoever.
Interesting.
But I've been disappointed by Orson Scott Card like 3 times now. of
Sure.
Ender's Game being one of my favorite books. Reading Ender's Shadow is fine, but then Speaker of the Dead, I guess it's okay.
Hmm.
And then just kind of fallen off. Reading the Portal series he does. What's that one called? I have it on the shelf somewhere. Not Alvin Portals, but Gate. The last one's
something.
Gate Father. I can. Hold on. Just gonna grab it.
Whoop.
The Gate Thief.
Mm.
Gate Thief. Fantastic entry. Amazing. Like, this is the definition of, hey, you want to be, you want to read Percy Jackson, but all of a sudden it's a lot more adult. Of like, oh, this is Percy Jackson for like late teens. Yeah, it's great. It fantastic concept. By the third book, it's just characters chatting around, and they're chatting around the fire about the moral implications of what they're doing. I'm like, it's a bit much.
So you dislike Red Prophet even more than Name of the Wind?
Yeah, I think it's a way worse book.
That's well, and part of why I'm like impressed that you hate it that much is the book's not very long. It's like 250, 300 pages. Like it's a pretty trim. It's a pretty trim volume.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Well, so here's what I'll say about like Alvin Maker. So like, I mean, obviously I didn't feel that way about the book. And I personally think that book 3 is, it's certainly my favorite of them. I don't know if you'd call it the strongest or not. But book 3 is my favorite of the series. And then book 4 and 5, yeah, there's a lot of sitting around and talking in those books. And it's because they're both courtroom dramas. So like one of them is like, oh, the Salem witch trials is coming back. And then another one, Alvin's being accused of some crime. So like, I feel like it makes sense in the story for it. But I do know you're not the only one who's had that complaint. I know some people will say that like, oh, the Alvin Maker books, they get into like discussing and talking about American heritage and theorizing and philosophy and stuff like that. And I don't know if it just didn't bug me or just didn't, rub me the wrong way, but it's interesting that you reacted so strongly to what I see as being a rather benign entry in the series of like, oh, well, like I can understand why you guys have the strong visceral reaction against Name of the Wind. Like I like Name of the Wind. I'm not gonna say like it's the second coming of Christ, but like I think it's fine. But I get why people are like, no, Kvothe is awful, and I hate that he made it so that dragons eat trees. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Or Dracus. But with Red Prophet, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, so that's interesting that you bounced off it that hard.
To me, it's expectations. I feel like Card kind of pulls you in book 1 and sets expectations of a different type of story, and then as the story progresses, abandons the expectations they set. If it is just courtroom drama, if it is that, it's not that from the beginning. And so me going from book 1 to book 2 and just going, what the hell is this? This is not what I signed up for. It happened with the Gate Thief, of progressively each book becoming less of what I enjoyed in the first one.
So do you like genre switches more in the same book rather than from book to book in a series?
I mean, I guess genre shift has to be justified. In this sense, like, it just didn't feel that way.
Alvin is born in the first book and then is 6 for most of it. So unless you keep him 6 for the whole series, the stuff he's doing is gonna I'm sorry, I don't need, like, I'm not gonna change your mind over this, Rich. I'm just pushing back here,
maybe I need to reread it to hate it more accurately. It's been a while.
I feel like we have to read this series so you get a review out there just for posterity's sake.
I mean, they're short books. I'd be fine. Like, yeah, I enjoyed book 1 enough, but then book 2 pissed me off in just all the right ways. It pissed me off.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't encourage a reread because I don't want anybody to read books they don't like, unless it's Name of the Wind, in which
I mean,
case,
we did that, and I enjoyed my reread. It was great. I took lots of notes.
yeah, yeah, and burn your copy at the end of it. Ah, ha, 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 ha. No, I thought that was really interesting when you guys reviewed Name of the Wind, and then you contrasted it to Empire of Silence. Because a lot of people will talk about Empire of Silence as being like discount Name of the Wind or discount Dune. And so it was really interesting to hear you guys be like, actually, like, I think he did it better than, Rothfuss specifically. I thought that was an interesting contrast to make.
Yeah, I mean, overall, is Name of the Wind better written than Empire of Silence? Sure, I would say that. But the benefit, the benefit of a framed narrative is kind of the difference between the characters. How did they get from there to here? And like, they're supposed to be widely different characters. Name of the Wind does not make much use of its framed narrative, at least in my opinion.
Well, and you like Sun Eater, Rich, so surely you don't have a problem with philosophizing in books, right?
Yeah, as long as it's set up.
Okay.
And that's what like, I like philosophizing. It's great. There's a type of pretentiousness though in Alvin Maker where it just felt out of place.
Hmm.
It was not organic to the characters. Like, the characters had things going on. There's a plot going on, and then it all halts for us to talk about something that's doesn't feel as relevant, that it feels like, oh, this is just the thing the author wants to talk about right now.
Interesting.
That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, that's interesting, huh? So if you guys like, philosophizing, how high on your classics radar is Crime and Punishment?
Very high.
Crime and Punishment, War and Peace, those both got to be on there.
Dostoevsky's got to be on there for sure.
Yeah.
At Brothers Karamazov too. I don't know which of the two to read first, though. That's also a debate to be had. I started reading it a while back and was really enjoying it, and I don't know why I stopped. Probably because of Book Channel and like reading more fantasy stuff and whatnot. But can't wait. Yeah, those will be high on the list. Man, Rich, we got a lot to read.
I know.
We got to become. Is it Steve Donahue? He's the one who
That's
reads
right.
100 books, 120 books a month.
Something like that.
He's got to
Yeah.
teach
My
us.
lord.
That's incredible.
Actually, so when you brought him up before we started recording, I sorted by popular, and one of his popular videos is like how I like what is the how oh yeah, discussion response, how I read so much.
Yeah.
We got to watch that video. See, like, what's the
Learn
hell?
his secrets.
What is he doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does he have that fancy app that flashes the word dead center in the screen so you don't actually move your eye when reading? Have you seen those?
No, I haven't.
It's wild. Like, if
I
you
feel
look
like
up
I'd get seasick.
like reading speed on YouTube thing where they'll test your reading speed using flashing words. But it basically means you can read without moving your eyes left to right. So you just stare and the words flash in your face. It's like the scene from Clockwork Orange.
Sure. Well, I'd be really interested to see what you guys make of Crime and Punishment. I'm sure there's a lot that you'd enjoy there, like that. And in terms of classics, like that and Moby Dick are like the two that I'd be like, oh, I'd be really interested to see what Austin and Rich make of that.
Oh, sweet.
I did not appreciate Moby Dick when I first read it. And yeah, after a reread much later, I believe I read it again in college.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, it's another one of those books of how meaningful it is about it's literally just a guy battling a fish. That is the book. And
are
it is
whales
so
fish?
meaningful. It's a
Are
big
whales?
fish.
Are
Well,
whales
according to
fish?
Aquaman.
Oh, I'm thinking Old Man in the Sea for some reason. Yeah, no.
Whales, yeah, whales aren't fish. I was just double checking
Different.
my knowledge.
No, you got it right. I mean, Moby Dick is also very good, but it's also Yeah, I didn't appreciate it when I was much younger either. I'd probably want to read it again.
I don't know how like emotional you guys get reading books, but like I like never cry reading, like ever. I don't know why that is, but I don't. I cry
Heartless
about
monster. Yeah, of course.
yeah, I cry about real yeah, exactly. Yes. No, I cry
Is that
about like
you cry in real life? Do you need to talk about something?
no, I cry like a normal amount, maybe even a little more in real life when it
How
comes
many
to
times
like
a month would you
family
say?
friends. I would say about every other day, maybe on
Really?
average. Yeah. When
Every
my
other day?
Wait, every other day you're crying.
my my reason for bringing it up is there's a bit near the end of Crime and Punishment that like I like can't even recite the lines from it because it just like it will get me like it'll start choking me up. So yeah,
Are
that's
there are there any book lines and quotes that you just have memorized and just love to like say in the shower type of stuff? Anything like that?
a few. Yeah.
Uh, Are they like, from what books are they? Do you have something like?
So I got a couple from Lord of the Rings.
Of course, we all got the pocket Lord of the Rings ones, guys.
Yeah. So I have a few from Lord of the Rings. I've got a very few from Lewis, C.S. Lewis that I like. But like Shakespeare's probably the main one, just because
That would
it's
track.
Shakespeare and it's like his stuff is almost written to be memorized, so it's not difficult once you get into the cadence of it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, like, do you guys ever see Henry V from Shakespeare?
I have not actually.
Okay. Yeah, Kenneth Branagh
No.
did a movie of it in the 80s. It's a masterpiece, but there's this big speech that Henry gives before the battle, and like I can give you about 3/4 of that speech. So
How long's the speech?
it's like 6 minutes long. Something.
Damn,
So
that's impressive.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a good speech.
I could give
So,
you the Rohan speech. Die! That's about it. I don't have the earlier part, but I have that part down.
I believe I can give you some sizable chunk of the Macbeth. Is this a dagger I see before me?
hmm,
Monologue. That was at one point the monologue I had to memorize for the school play.
okay,
Oh,
I
and you
still
still
have
have
that.
Wow.
yeah.
Now, did I actually participate in the play? No, I did not make it, but I get to build the set.
Well, I know we're coming towards the end here. I did want to end. I already most of the things that I would have pitched as recommendations we already talked about because we talked about Wolf Hall. Alvin Maker was decimated mercilessly by Richard. Which
Wait, was that on your recommended list? Did you have that written down? Because that's hilarious.
I wrote it down to talk about because I would be interested to I would have been interested. I'm no longer interested.
Oh my goodness.
But I did want to know if you guys have like read because you said you're trying to not start series. Have you guys read A Canticle for Leibowitz?
No, but I have been recommended that.
Okay. So
Yes.
I did the thing that you guys alluded to before we hit record here. I did that earlier today where I just binged through a bunch of the episodes that I've missed for a little bit. And
nice.
so I got to hear you guys talk about Pilgrims again on your top 10 list. And I've had that on my radar for a while, but some of the things that you guys said that you liked about that book, I'd be interested to hear what you make of Canticle.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is it First Contact?
No, but it is very Catholic sci-fi.
Okay, interesting.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a video on it. It will already be out by the time this video drops, but like kind of going over it and why I like it and
Awesome.
why it's brilliant.
Yeah.
The Mormons have enough books. The Catholics need to step it up.
That's right. Yeah.
There are so many Mormon famous like Mormon sci-fi fantasy authors.
Yeah.
It's
Once you
more
start
common than you think. It's weird.
once you start counting it up, it's like, oh, like Brian McClellan and David Farland and like all of them.
Yeah.
So well, I'll not keep you guys too long, but I'll say I I guess obviously, I'm sure most people seeing this follow To Ramble, but if you don't, check them out, and I'll link you guys below. Anything else that I should be plugging here besides the $10 a month?
Yeah. Well, if you aren't already subscribed to Samwise's channel, what are you doing? Subscribe down below. I don't know
Hi,
why you're not.
Samwise.
I know.
You never know. He could be on his crying or not crying day. Give him a sub.
That's
because
right.
who knows?
It'll make my day better.
It could be his off day. Do that. No, nothing else to plug other than I hope the website we talked about earlier is going to be up eventually.
You guys were talking about that back like 3 years ago when I was a part of the Patreon. So
it takes surprisingly a lot more work than we thought.
This Wednesday is supposedly our final call. So
no kidding.
Yeah. We're so happy. We're so excited. So but for beta testing and stuff.
Sure.
So. But yeah, no, Sam, thank you for having us. This is sweet. I would, next time we can chat and then not have the cameras on us so we could talk about whatever. Oh, Rich, remember the thing with the Lonesome Dove? Yes.
That's
okay.
Right,
Just reminding you. Yes. No, but thank you, Samwise.
You have to subscribe to To Ramble OnlyFans to get what Rich is about to share. So.
To defeat. Look it up on OnlyFans. That's where we are.